Now that I've completed my run of Marvel's Avengers main story content and I'm working towards getting all of my characters to level 50, I've been thinking a lot about the future of this game. Specifically, I can't stop thinking about potential characters being playable. So I thought I'd put together a type of wish list. There is some data mine information about additional characters coming to the game. Specifically, there's a list of 15 characters. I've already talked about that list in the past and I won't be talking about it in this video because I don't want anybody who's trying to avoid spoilers be ruined by this video. If you're trying to be surprised by the future DLC content, I would hate to be the person who spoils it for you. Though, for the record, anybody who does know about that list, I do think that every single character that was on that list will be playable in the future. Now, if your favorite character is not on that list, there's still reason for hope. Based on some public statements from both Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics, it does sound like that this game is going to be supported for years to come. So, anything is possible, especially when it comes to additional characters. With that in mind, here's a top 10 list of Marvel heroes that I would like to see playable in Marvel's Avengers. For the sake of this video, I'm considering Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, Black Panther, and Spider-Man all as confirmed characters, meaning they won't be a part of this list. I'd also like to mention that I avoided adding Spider-Man characters to the list because if I was allowed to add additional Spider-Man characters, a large portion of this list would just be Spider-Man-esque characters. Miles Morales, Spider-Gwen, Venom, Carnage, although I don't know what Carnage would be doing as a playable character in this game, but he would be on the list. I would also like to just take a moment to remind you to hit the subscribe button. It only takes 2 seconds out of your day and it keeps you up to date with all the superhero content that I'll be doing on the channel. And if you're already a subscriber, don't forget leaving a like helps just as much. This list is in order, so my most desired character will be the character we talk about last. And with that in mind, let's get things started off with Wolverine. Wolverine alone brings tons of potential to the game from a lot of different aspects. From a gameplay level, he could bring in some interesting built-in self-healing or self-sustain outside of just doing takedowns like most characters can do. Maybe he would play more like a tank than most people would assume, but I'm just guessing he would have some really awesome aggressive combat stuff. On an aesthetic level, Wolverine has a wide variety of different costumes and different cosmetics that they could sell for the character, so that's a plus. And from a story perspective, he offers so much potential just by virtue of being an X-Men character. There are so many different enemy types and different cameos and all kinds of things that they could incorporate into a potential Wolverine story. Number 9 is Star-Lord. In similar fashion to Wolverine, Star-Lord would have a huge chance to bring in new opportunities for different regions and enemy types. I would love to see this game explore different space regions that we haven't had a chance to check out yet. Perhaps some of the members of the Guardians go missing and Star-Lord has no other choice but to enlist the aid of the Avengers to help him find the other members of the Guardians. I think we'd all be happy to play as Star-Lord, and I'm sure he would have some unique mobility options and jetpack stuff, which I'm sure would be fun. Moving on to number 8, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is probably the most likely of all the characters on this list. She has been heavily featured in the game's story. I'd be completely shocked if Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix didn't have plans for Captain Marvel being added to the game in the future, and I personally think the sooner Captain Marvel's added to the game, the better. Number 7 is Scarlet Witch. I've talked about my bias for magic users before, and Scarlet Witch is no exception to that. We don't actually have any magic users on the roster right now, and she's not going to be the only magic user I mention on this list, as you might expect. But I'd be more than satisfied to find out that she'd be the only magic user on the roster, other than the other character we're going to talk about on this list. She's probably my favorite magic user in the entire Marvel lineup, and of course she's incredibly popular because she's a big part of the MCU and everyone knows the character. Number 6, Moon Knight. I've actually only read a little bit about Moon Knight. Most of you watching this video know that I have a personal preference for DC over Marvel. I'm not one of those people that war between DC and Marvel. I'm not trying to say one is better than the other. I just have a preference for DC. And as a result, I have a lot of knowledge blind spots when it comes to Marvel. Moon Knight is one of those blind spots. I know very little about the character past his Wikipedia entry and various things I've read here and there. I've also watched a couple videos on the character because I thought he was interesting. Everything I've heard about the character sounds right up my alley, and I would love the chance to play as him in Marvel's Avengers. And another reason I've decided to add him to this list is that I was hoping some of you in the comment section could recommend me some Moon Knight stories to read. I'd love to hear all your recommendations in the comment section. Thank you in advance. Moving into the top 5 now, starting off with Ant-Man. Ant-Man is a character that sounds like a nightmare from a design perspective. It must be very, very difficult to design gameplay for this type of character, and for that reason alone, I want to see a version of Ant-Man be playable in this game. Now that I've had a chance to play the game, I can kind of conceptualize how Ant-Man would play. Like, perhaps maybe he fights mostly in regular human size, and then he shrinks down for takedowns or double jumps or stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure how it would all come together, but at the very least, the character is an interesting puzzle that Crystal Dynamics Dynamics would have to solve. Number 4, Deadpool. If you asked me about Deadpool before the release of this game, I would say that the character is incredibly difficult from a writing perspective, like very, very difficult, but the character interactions and dialogue that we have in Marvel's Avengers so far has proven itself to be outstanding, and I'm more than confident that the team over at Crystal Dynamics would do a fantastic job if they do decide to adapt a version of Deadpool in this game. So assuming that Marvel is actually allowed to use the character, which I know there's some weird stuff going on with that, but assuming that they do manage to pull it off, after all he is in Marvel Ultimate Alliance, I think Deadpool would be a fantastic fit for this game. Number 3, Doctor Strange. I told you I wasn't done with magical characters on this list, and who better than Doctor Strange? The character is known across the world outside of even just comic book fans, thanks to Benedict Cumberbatch's fantastic performance as the character, and as a result, I would honestly be shocked if this character doesn't show up in the future. I think most of us are expecting Doctor Strange to make an appearance in this game, and I'm totally all here for it. Number 2, the second most desired character, a character I'm probably not gonna get, Blade. Mahershala Ali's Blade film is certainly the future Marvel film that I'm looking forward to most out of anything coming out of Marvel from the near future. Blade's character is so interesting to me. Obviously, this brings in a ton of fun possibilities when it comes to gameplay. Heck, even some more interesting enemy types that we don't currently have in the game, although I'm not sure how they would go about doing that, and I'm also not sure how they would go about working him into the existing story. But assuming that Crystal Dynamics ever does try to give Blade a shot in Marvel's Avengers, I'm sure they would do an absolutely outstanding job. They've shown themselves to do a great job so far, and I'm fully confident in whatever they have planned for the future. But I hope at least at some point they've had some type of conversation about Blade and a potential appearance in Marvel's Avengers. In the number 1 spot, the character that I would pick over any other character to make it into the game, Quicksilver. Even more than magical users, I have a soft spot for speedsters, or really anybody with any type of super speed. I don't know, I just love the super speed aesthetic, so of course I want to see Quicksilver included in Marvel's Avengers as soon as possible. We've yet to see very many games tackle a speedster. There's a few fighting games that have tackled speedsters, but there's definitely a lack of speedsters in video games, and I really hope that Quicksilver does manage to make it into Marvel's Avengers just to give me a speedster to play in a game. Please give it to me. And of course, if you do Scarlet Witch stuff, you could do some Quicksilver stuff alongside it, kind of like what we're getting with Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. Maybe you can even have Magneto as a raid boss or something. That'd be kind of cool. All right, we're going way too far into the future of speculation, okay? Which I guess is as good a time as any to wrap up the video. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe. It helps out the channel a bunch. I want to thank you so much for the support recently. It means the world to me. Been taking a very different direction with the channel recently, and I've seen nothing but support in response, so thank you so much for that. My name has been Bilbzy, and I'll be sure to catch you in the next video.